Welcome back, guys. This is the sewing tutorial of how I made this beautiful backless dress. Okay, so I started by joining my lining to fabric. Okay, so I joined the two sides of the upper part, all right, and then I sewed this way. Okay, so after sewing, I notched and then turned to the right side. Okay, so this is the finished look and this is the second one. All right, you can see that the upper part and the lower part are both open. All right, so I'm going to top stitch that part. All right, but before I fold that the upper part, before I fold it, I'm going to top stitch it like this. Okay, I've not folded it yet. I just top stitched it so that I'll hold the lining and the main fabric. So after that, I'm going to fold just the way we usually fold our hems. All right, so I'm going to fold to create a hole for me to pass my loop. All right, for the lower part, I'm just going to top stitch again just to hold down the lining and the main fabric. All right, so after doing that, I'm going to take my needle and thread and gather that part. Okay, I'm just going to gather it. It's always easier for me to use my needle and thread. All right, so after doing that, I set it aside and then I brought my waistband, the band I'm going to use for my waist, and then I got the midpoint and notched it like you see on my screen, on your screen. Okay, so I notched it and then I measured the waist, my round waist divided by 2. Okay, after measuring it, I'm going to, from the center of that front, I'm going to measure quarter of my waist. Okay, that is after dividing it by 2, I'm going to divide it again by 2. That is round waist divided by 4 in essence. So I marked the midpoint and then got the side, my waist. Okay, and then from where that waist is starting, from my midpoint is where I'm going to sew one side of my front. But instead of sewing in or exactly on that midpoint, I just had to sew on half an inch. Okay, I had to bring it close to the camera. I had to sew on half an inch, like I had to add half an inch from the center of the front. Okay, I hope you understand what I mean, from the center of the front, because this would be on, and this will overlap each other with the other side of the upper part. Okay, so I just top stitched it. You can sew on 0.25. okay, you can sew on 0.25 or you can sew on half an inch. All right, whichever one that would work fine for you, because you are still going to close it up with the band. All right, so I am done attaching this upper part, one side. I am done attaching it to the the waistband. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to repeat the same process with the other one. I'm going to gather and then place and sew. So I've gathered it and then I overlap it on the other part as well, by half an inch. I just used half an inch. All right, so I overlapped it and then I'm going to sew on, I'm going to join my upper part, all right, to the band on the waist. Okay, so this is how I joined it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do well to do so and God will bless you. All right, I do post some intense tutorial right here, tutorials that would give you a step-by-step process to achieving your goal. So I'm done joining and as you can see I overlapped it. All right, so after overlapping, I'm going to just top stitch on the top. I'm going to measure about 4 inches. All right, you can do 5, you can do 6, you can do 3.5. all right, but I used 4 inches and then I just top stitch on just 0.1, like just to top stitch it and put it in place. All right, so after I am done doing that, I'm going to just go ahead and attach the other side of the band. Okay, remember that the band is split into two, so like I did before, I just got the midpoint and matched it to the midpoint of the one that I've attached to the upper part already. Okay, and from that midpoint, I first of all joined it to the end of the other part. Okay, so you see the reason why I said you should sew on 0.25. all right, this is because it's going to be easier for you to navigate when joining the other side of your waistband. Okay, so after sewing this, I'm going to turn around and sew the other part as well. Okay, so I'm going to sew from the other part of the end. I'm going to sew from the other side of the end to the end of this part. Okay, I'm going to sew it to that end. All right, so and after I'm done sewing that, you can see that I have gotten a very neat finishing right there. Okay, so after sewing that part, I'm going to bring my skirt right now. So but before I bring my skirt, remember that our front and back part is not kind of the same. It's not the same because one is going to be carrying elastic and one is just going to be added to the waistband. Okay, so the one that is with elastic, I'll add at least 1.5 inches on the lower part and then 1.5 inches on the upper part for the elastic, and for the other 1.5 on the hem, it will be for the hemming of the fabric of the dress. Okay, so that is for the part, for the back part that has elastic. But for the front, it does not have elastic, so I'm just going to add 1.5 on the hemline and then add 0.5 inch on the upper part for sewing. Okay, so by the time I add to the waistband, by the time I add the front to the waistband, which is about with 0.5 inch allowance, when I'm done doing that, it's going to just rhyme so well. Now I am folding the upper part of the back for my elastic, so I am going to be using 1 inch elastic for the back. Okay, I'm going to be using 1 inch, so I'm creating a channel for me to pass the elastic. All right, so after I am done, I'm going to measure my waist elastic, all right, for the back. Okay, so how I got this was to divide my waist into two and then I removed about 3 to 4 inches. Okay, I removed 3 to 4 inches and then I passed it to my waist. All right, to the back waist, the back part of my waist. Okay, so and that was what I did. So I am done adding my elastic now, and I also gathered the front waistline. Okay, the one to be added to the band as well. I gathered it with my needle and thread. Okay, it's always easier for me that way. So as you can see, I have added the elastic for my waist. Okay, and then after all of this, I first of all added my pocket. Okay, I just marked 2 inches from that waist. I just marked 2 inches and then I top stitch with 0.5 inch. All right, so I top stitch with 0.5 inch for each part, each side of the I pocket. Also did the same, which is adding my pocket to the front of the lower part. Okay, I just added it to the side. Next is to join my front and my back together. Okay, so I used about 1 inch for joining. All right, like I mentioned earlier, I already gathered the front waist. Okay, so I'm going to sew on the side. All right, so when I'm sewing, I'm going to add about, make sure to align the pockets, align the waist. Okay, so I left about 0.5 inch on the waist of the front lines just so I can add my waistband to it. Okay, so after aligning that, I am going to go ahead and sew by 1 inch. Okay, remember that we already sew our pocket on 1/2 inch. All right, so this is how I am sewing it. I've already placed my side pocket. All right, so and I'll keep adjusting to make sure that both the front and the back are well aligned and doing just fine. Next is to add it to my waistband. Okay, so I just matched the side of the dress. I just matched it, the side of the skirt part to the side of the upper part. Okay, where the waist stopped, that is where I matched it. All right, so after matching it, I just sew on about 0.25. Okay, so this is so that it will be easier for you to navigate by the time you want to close the other side of the waist elastic. Okay, so the watchword, the most important thing is that this comes out neatly made. Okay, no rough edges showing anywhere. So after doing that, I just flipped to the other side and then I sew my band. Okay, I stopped at where the waist stopped, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side of this waistband. Okay, I keep calling it elastic waistband, which it's not. There is no elastic on this waistband. Okay, this is just a waistband that is going to have an excess to be, to be tied around on the back. I'm done, and as you can see, it is remaining that part where the skirt is joined at the front. Okay, so I'm just going to fold it in, so like so, and then I'm going to bring it to the machine, and then I'll just top stitch as easy as close as possible to the tip. Okay, now this is a hack that you shouldn't ignore. You see that I am sewing on the wrong side for my final finishing. This is very, very wrong. Don't do the same thing. Okay, when you want to attach your own band, attach it from the wrong side to the front. Okay, this will help you to top stitch and do it neatly. All right, when you are joining to your skirt for the final time, please join from the wrong side, so that by the time you are top stitching, as I'm doing like this, it will be on the front side and it will be neater that way. Okay, so do not make the same mistake. I actually later corrected it, but that was off camera. So I am done sewing. As you can see, super easy. Okay, so you see that I am done sewing and everywhere is just so neat and beautiful. Okay, so for the strap on the neckline, on the shoulder, or whatever you decide to do it, this is how I'm going to sew the strap. Okay, so you see that I folded it into two. Okay, I folded it and then I'm going to just top stitch as close to the tip as possible. All right, and when I'm done sewing this strap, I am going to use my safety pin as usual, and then I'm going to pass it to that upper part of the dress. Okay, where we created a channel before. Okay, so I'm just going to pass the strap on both sides. Okay, and after doing that, I'm going to just hem the hemline. All right, so please do not forget to subscribe, like and share this video for more interesting tutorials. Okay, bye bye.